Now, a doctor who was employed by Atos, the company which assesses people for disability benefits in the UK, has strongly criticised its methods as unfair. Greg Wood, who spoke exclusively to the BBC, alleges that medical knowledge was being twisted in his view and that the system was stacked against the claimant. Atos says it completely refutes and rejects the allegations and insists it's the government that decides the rules. Our correspondent Sophie Hutchinson has more details.
Emma Hackett suffers from chronic pain and mental health problems. In the past few years, she has twice been rejected for the full sickness benefit following a work capability assessment.
Not only do I feel bad that I can't work, other people are making me feel bad that I can't work.
Emma challenged her assessment and won. Since 2008, tribunals have overturned well over a third of assessment appeals in favour of claimants. The company Atos carries out the assessments for the government, and both have been heavily criticised for causing misery at a huge cost to the taxpayer.
The job is, although it's...
Now, for the first time, a doctor who worked for Atos has decided to speak out. Greg Wood, a former Royal Navy doctor, has resigned as an assessor because he was so sickened by the system.
Well, these assessments need to be done independently, impartially, considering all the evidence and with proper use of medical knowledge, and that's just not happening at the moment. Pressure is being put on healthcare professionals to, in many cases, come up with a particular outcome, really regardless of the facts of the case.
Dr Wood alleges the assessments for the employment and support allowance are unfair and unethical. He claims he was instructed to change reports. He says that medical knowledge is twisted, and he says the system is skewed against the claimant. One of the claims is that assessors are taught if a person can walk the short distance from their kitchen to their living room, it proves they can walk 200 metres and so be fit for work. And if a person is able to get dressed at some point during the day, it means they have enough motivation and concentration to hold down a job.
But this relentless pursuit
Atos strongly rejects the claims. In the company's first television interview about the assessments, it insisted it's providing a good service.
During the assessment, a number of questions are asked, and those questions are to complement the medical evidence and to build a picture of someone's lifestyle and complete capabilities. So there are numerous questions, and anyone taken out of context might seem somewhat odd.
But on rehab.
Dr Wood also claims the system is failing some of the most vulnerable who are being asked to attend assessments. He saw many distressing examples.
Someone with motor neurone disease, which again, progressive neurological condition, who I actually put in the terminal illness group because he was, who should not have come for a face-to-face assessment.
What is so upsetting about meeting somebody?
Because it's cruel.
The government says it strives to ensure people with terminal illness do not have face-to-face assessments. It says it's getting 85% of decisions about the benefit right. Nevertheless, Emma lives with the anxiety that she will be reassessed and could lose the support she desperately needs. Sophie Hutchinson, BBC News.
Well, let's talk to the Labour MP Tom Greatrix, who's been a consistent critic of these fitness to work tests. He's written to the Prime Minister asking for a new investigation. Mr Greatrix, good evening to you. Thanks for coming in. What is your reaction this evening, given what we've heard there from the doctor, who was clearly rather upset, very upset in fact, at some of the circumstances he'd seen?
Yeah, I mean, these are hugely alarming allegations, and that's why I've written to the Prime Minister today urging an immediate investigation into these claims, because if they are true and they are accurate, then that demonstrates that what this test is supposed to do, the way in which the government have said this test works, isn't actually what's happening in reality. And I've had many people in my constituency who've been to see me who've been through this process, and they all say, nearly all say, that they think there should be an assessment, but the way in which it's done is too crude, it's too simplistic, and that means it ends up being unfair and it creates very distressing situations such as those that Dr. Wood referred to in his interview.
So the viewers understand it better, what kind of things do people say to you in your MP surgery?
Well, for example, I've had a constituent with Parkinson's disease. Now, Parkinson's disease you're not going to get better from, who went through an assessment, was assessed as fit for work, appealed it, was actually told that he wasn't fit for work, then got called back for another assessment and had to go through the whole process again and again. So a huge sort of revolving door of assessment and then appeal. And we're spending £110 million a year with Atos to undertake the assessments. But this year, actually, the appeals rate, successful appeals rate, is up to 42%, costing a projected £70 million. So we're paying twice, once to have an assessment that's not working, and then once to correct those with through the appeals process, which is a hugely inefficient use of public money, quite apart from the distress that it's obviously causing very many people. And these are people who accept that there should be an assessment, because if the assessment is working, it should be helping people, give them to support to get into work, those who can, and it shouldn't be hounding those who can't. But unfortunately, that isn't what's happening.
Clear statement from the government, the DWP, saying that since 2010, they say we have considerably improved the work capability assessment process. As a result, the percentage of people getting long-term unconditional support has more than doubled in 2 years. Does that suggest they are listening?
Well, since 2010, what happened was that we had the pilot projects on this. The government refused to address the issues that came out of those. That created a huge backlog of assessments and appeals, and if the successful appeal rate is going up, as it has done in the last few months, to even higher than 40%, to 42%, and costing an extra £70 million a year, that doesn't suggest to me that it's improving. It suggests it's actually getting worse. And the government really need to get a grip of this, because if there's going to be any confidence in the assessment process, and it's fine for the DWP to blame Atos and Atos to blame the DWP, but it's people who are suffering when people should be giving help and assistance to get into work. That's why it needs real and fundamental reform now to get this right, so it's an assessment process that people can have confidence in to help people who can into work and not hound those who can't.
Mr. Greatrix, good of you to come in. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
The Labour MP, Tom Greatrix, there. Now let's have a look at the headlines. 5